You're welcome for asking. I'm so excited to be on this panel because this has never happened to me, while I was doing research, this man's credits went from 368 IMDb credits to 369 in real time. He is in so much, it was like a stock ticker. It is my absolute pleasure to bring out Keith David.
Good morning.
So I was just telling these folks, 368 credits turned into 369 in real time for me. That is a lot of incredible work, man. What gives you the passion to keep making so much great stuff?
I like to eat.
The fairest answer I'll get all weekend. I love that. And the work is so consistent. What you do brings such joy and heart, but also terror. You're able to convey both sides of that very intense spectrum in your acting. Is there something you find consistently draws you to scripts? Is there something that you want to check off, like, oh, I haven't done that, or that feels comfortable, or what do you see?
The question is, what draws me to the script?
To a certain role, yeah.
The story, first of all. I really am fascinated. That's what we do. We're storytellers. And we like to hear stories. We like to engage ourselves in stories, especially stories that somehow motivate us to be better people or get us to understand each other or ourselves. And we need those things. We don't have mentors like we used to, when we first, got on the planet, and we had clans, we had mentors, we had those people who we would apprentice with, and then they were verbal stories before the written word was the spoken word, and stories got handed down from generation to generation, from grandfathers to grandsons to, fathers and daughters. And now, we have comic books and graphic novels and those kinds of things. And through the stories, especially with horror and sci-fi, we have these stories that engage the imagination in such a wonderful what-if kind of way, because the best of these stories have a kind of credibility that makes you think, oh, yeah, that could happen to me, that just could happen. And I think that for me, that's the best kind of engagement, when just without too much of a stretch of the imagination, that could happen. So, watch out.
You mentioned all of this with morality and storytelling, and I love one of my favorite shows, Community, bringing so much of that. Yeah. This is the right community crowd. It's good to hear. But that show felt so authentic to these communities and to the nerd culture in a way that I don't think I've seen before or since. And it was a litany of directors and so many actors. How did it feel on set, and how did it stay so authentic to this community?
Well, I joined the Community cast, as you know, in the 5th season. And they were so welcoming to me and Paget. That's not always the easiest thing to do, to join a cast that's been together for 5 years, doing what they do, and here now are these two new characters. And they were just so loving and welcoming. I mean, the cast, the crew. So it was easy to kind of fall in with them. And again, I love Elroy. I mean, he's such a quirky dude, So it was a joy to play him. You know what I mean?
And the balance of satire, comedy, and sincerity is always so impressive, and I feel like Community really nailed that. And much more recently, Best Picture nominee American Fiction balanced that sincerity and comedy. Yeah! I adore that film so much. When you're on a set that's dealing with satire, with sincerity, with comedy, with all of these different tones. What's it feel like going from page to screen when you see the completed product with the edit, with the experience? What was that like for you with American Fiction?
Well, I mean, and you can tell me, this is, my experience is, when I look at it on the page, and something in my being rings truth. I call it the ring of truth. When I see something on the page and it rings true to me, true to my spirit, then it is my job to bring that truth that registered in my being to the scene that I'm playing. And that ring should be in harmony. So, I mean, I just try to bring the truth of that, of the reality of that moment. Because, right, you know, I mean, actually, I mean, I think life is a series of moments. We have this moment in time right now. We're sharing this moment, and this moment will never be again. Tomorrow at this time will be now. The only minute, the only moment, the only time we ever have in life is right here, right now. You know, in half an hour, it'll be then. But then will be now. You know what I mean? So trying to bring the truth to the moment is what, well, that's part of, it's a large part of what my job is.
And the other side of things, when there's a lot of pre-production done before you can, like, going into a season 5 of the show, a movie I can't believe exists is Coraline. Like, Coraline is such a Coraline is so special, and it takes so much work and painstaking labor, and then you come into it. How much had you seen of the character, the pre-production, as things were established? What was the Coraline process like?
I hadn't seen any of it. I mean, I knew that it was stop action, and I'm old enough to know. I don't see terribly many, but I don't know how. Maybe you might have seen a rerun of Gumby. Anybody remember Gumby? Well, Gumby was stop action. So I had already had a relationship with stop action before, and then it was also David and Goliath. Davy and Goliath. Anybody remember that? Hello, Davy. How are you, Davy?
I love a Gumby reference.
You know, so you know, and then I think, as I remember, you know, it was quite a long time ago, that while we were filming, I saw some cat references, but I also knew that they were going to be moving in real time, you know.
Yeah.
So it was a slightly, you know, heightened reality. So it's a little bit different. You know, I do remember, you know, one of the parts of the movie I loved was going through the hole and the button eyes. Anyone remember that part? My daughter was about 6 years old. It scared the bejesus out of her. You know, even today, and she's 20, and she's like, oh no.
When I see a cosplayer with the button eyes, I'm a little like, I move across the hall. It's still,
but again, you know, didn't that at the same time sort of freak you out? It engaged your imagination, right? I mean, it's like you didn't want to. At the same time, you kind of didn't want to see, you didn't want to look at it, but you didn't want to not know what happened. You know, so
good storytelling. Now, voice work, sometimes it's multiple characters in one property, sometimes it's changing characters depending on the situation, but I don't see that as often in live action, but you did one of the few movies I do see that in, and it's so slept on in my opinion. I'm a big Cloud Atlas fan. I feel like Cloud Atlas is one of those like soon-to-be cult classics, and you played a myriad of characters that have transitions through emotions, which I love. The editing is so emotionally driven. When you did that, was that more familiar to voice work because there were so many characters on one property, or how did you establish them?
No, I mean, you know, I loved it because, you know, it's one of the things I've always wanted to do was, you know, to play a double role, to play a double character, or multiple characters. It was, you know, in each segment, because they were, you know, there were different time segments. you play each character for each segment. Having some internal knowledge about that past life. I mean, I think, and beg to differ if I'm wrong, that each of us, each of us have had that moment of deja vu, right? Or vujade, I've never seen this shit. And in that moment, I mean, I had a conversation with a friend of mine about that voice. Now, whether you call your higher power God or a higher power, universal spirit, whatever that is, I think there's a guiding force that wants us all to be the best of ourselves. Partly from what we have learned about ourselves in the past, whether that past is when I was a baby in this life, or some memory of an experience like this in another life. Am I being clear? Okay. So the thing about Cloud Atlas that I really loved is you have an opportunity in playing the second or third character to have that sort of vujade moment when you remember, I've been here before. So if you listen and pay attention, it gives you a clue, maybe not how to solve the entire challenge, but at least a way to approach this present moment based on something that you feel like you really know. Does that make sense? Yeah, so I mean,
I love that. That's a really beautiful approach. And the movie is so stunning and such a spectacle. I also love that the voice work you do has a spectacle to it, a weight, this heartiness, and I got my personal favorite. I'm a huge Gargoyles guy. Gargoyles is so special to me, and you did such magic work as Goliath.
When I grow up, I want to be like Goliath.
Is there a role that you're most recognized for your voice work? Because as soon as I see you, I hear Goliath to me.
Sergeant Foley,
Oh, we're gonna get to Spawn, I promise.
Town.
Yay!
Is there one you find you slip into sometimes? Is there a voice that feels like a comfy place?
Just don't piss me off.
That was the thought coming on the stage. Now, with the voice work and the live action work, they blend together so beautifully when you're able to give these like large theatrical performances that mesh into larger than life films or subtle films. And one of those for me is a movie that a lot of people don't rewatch ever. I am a weird person that rewatches Requiem for a Dream every so often to go through the trauma, the experience.
You're a weird person.
I think it's a movie, if you want to feel the lowest lows, you can be like, I'm gonna commit to Requiem today. It's gonna be a time. But the first time you saw Requiem, how much did it feel like how it felt when you read it on the page?
The first time I saw Requiem, I went with my agent. She was my voiceover agent, actually. And it was such a wonderfully dark movie. What I loved about it the most is it didn't preach to you. It presented a slice of life to you, a lifestyle to you that, you had the choice to learn from or go down that rabbit hole. It didn't judge it, it just presented it. I didn't want to take an aspirin for 2 months after that. It was, it was magnificent the way he presented, each person's journey without judgment. I think that was like singularly unique. Although my agent said to me, I will never look at you the same now that I've seen your naked ass.
I love that the movie impacts you so deeply, and another of yours that absolutely does and was a terrifying part of my childhood is I watched The Thing recently again. The practical effects of what John Carpenter did, the horrors of that film, I mean, I'd say Requiem and that are a hell of a double feature, the physical and mental horrors.
Well, I mean, again, the wonderful thing about The Thing was it was pre-CGI. This was all ingenuity. It was really fantastic because what you can't do with CGI. If you remember the first vision of the dog transforming, metamorphosizing, well, that was done with air pumps. And it was all, you know, each of the animals' appendages, each muscle was pumped, had air pumped, and it had a certain function. And I remember it was my first movie, so I was paying attention to everything. When we walked into the door of the studio, to the right was a German Shepherd laying down. And so I started when I walked in, whoa, you know. And then it didn't move. I was like, oh shit. Okay. Then the first time you saw them, you know, pumping and it goes, and it's like, that is fascinating. But the dog was so realistic looking that I heard, and I don't know how true it is, but I heard that somebody called the ASPCA to make sure that we weren't being cruel to animals. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but that's what I heard. And I remember, you know, we didn't see any of those practical effects until the movie was finished. So the first time I really saw it move was on screen. Well, you know, I saw that, you know, that whole, right before I set it on fire. And I sat in the movie theater like this, going, oh, shit. Is that what I was seeing? Oh, wow. Oh, it was fascinating. It was fascinating. Because, I mean, it's a wonderful process, this movie making. And it is a craft. It's not, you know, as some of you do know, it ain't like making your mama's home movies. You know, it's a big process and it involves a lot of people. And when I saw the on-screen end result, I was, you know, over the moon with fascination, because it was like, I didn't see nothing like that. Well, you know, it's like, one of my favorite moments is when Dice Hart's character, the chest opens up and the arms get chopped off. And then the head sort of drips off the table and starts to crawl out of the room. You know, so what John said, okay, the head is coming off. Now just follow the head out of the room. And then you hear, you gotta be fucking kidding. I mean, but we didn't see that. We didn't see that head. We just followed the natural path. You know, so it was fascinating to see that. I mean, I wanted to laugh at that part.
That's so cool. You get to live in the present twice. You get to relive it in the theater, watching it for the first time again. It's such a special way.
I'm telling you, it was an incredible experience. But I'm glad it wasn't, you know, at the time, I was happy that I didn't, you know. How many of you remember Carrie, that movie? I went with a bunch of friends. I didn't bring a girlfriend to the movie, and I'm glad at the end, because I didn't want her to find out that I could scream louder than she could.
Now, I'm a big comic book guy. I love the world of comic books. I think there are Greek myths, and you've played two of my all-time favorites. I love Spawn. I think Spawn is such a special character. I also think your work as Black Panther is so special, and I think these characters
are
thank you. Hugely archetypal. Like, these characters are formative. Is there any character you want to go back to? Is there any big IP you haven't played yet in the comic book world?
Oh, obviously, the ones that I don't know about, I don't know. But I would go back to any of those you just mentioned. I mean, I would love to be in the Marvel universe, but that's if somebody asked me, I would say yes, but they haven't asked me yet. Hopefully, one day they will. But I would go back to do Spawn in a New York heartbeat.
Every comic I read, Galactus is your voice, man. Galactus is where I'll keep you from the Fantastic Four show to the movie. I'd be so happy. And my last question, so if you guys want to grab these mics right here, if you have any questions for Keith David, by all means. My last question is, I've never gotten to ask anyone about another formative part of my childhood. You were on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and I've always wondered, what was Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood set like, and how was he?
Mr. Rogers was one of the most incredible people I've ever met in life. You know what a Dutch master's painting looks like? With the white collar sticking, around the neck. When I first met Fred Rogers, that's what he looked like. He was coming from the makeup chair. So he had tissue paper coming out of his collar, to protect his collar. And he walked up to me and he said, "Hi, I'm Fred Rogers. Welcome to the neighborhood." And it was kind of surreal, because it was this big, dark sound stage, and I was like, okay. But he was just such a sweet, sweet man. I remember once running into him in Soho, downtown in New York, and he had some appointment, he was on his way, and he had his briefcase and his suit, and he remembered me, and he was like, "Hi, Keith, how are you doing?" And I was like, "Man, the better for seeing you." Wow. He was just a really great human being. So I had a great time.
That's such a unique, everything. That's wonderful. I will start here on the left side.
Good morning, Mr. David. How are you doing today?
I am better for your asking. Thank you.
I'm Deanna. Nice meeting you. My question is, do you remember them pitching you Gargoyles?
When Gargoyles came up, obviously the idea had been kicked around for a long time. And when they sent out the casting call, the breakdown said they're looking for a Sean Connery type. Because they're from Scotland. So when I went in, I was trying to do my best Sean Connery, the best Sean Connery. We are Gargoyles, And finally Greg said, "Listen, forget the accent, just talk, just do it." And the languaging, because Greg Weisman really kind of fashioned the whole universe in some kind of Shakespearean world. Well, Shakespeare is my wheelhouse, so it was wonderful. It was one of the very few jobs that I've ever had in my life, and I can definitely count on the fingers of one hand. It's happened to me 3 times when I went into an audition, and before I left the audition, said, "This, as far as I'm concerned, the job is yours," and that was one of them.
Thank you for being the voice of my childhood.
Sir, over here in the red.
I just want to say welcome to Megacon, Mr. David.
Thank you.
And my question for you is, what was your favorite part about being in 2 movies with Russell Crowe?
Working, dude. You know what I mean? It's getting paid.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, and I got to work with, this time in Crook of the Dead, we got to hang out a little bit and we got to be friends, but I didn't get to actually work with him on screen. In Nice Guys, we got scenes together, so that was the most fun about it.
Hello, Mr. David. I have a slightly somber question, but are you doing anything to help honor the great late Lance Reddick as Captain Zavala in the video game Destiny?
The best way I can honor Lance is to bring to the table what I got from his performance. And it's not just not just a sense of gravitas, but the manner in which he brought to the table a sense of honor and service to his people and to the people he served. So that's what I try to bring to the table. And that in that way, I'm not trying to imitate him. I'm not trying to just do something different because it's different. I try to honor the space that he entered in order to do that.
Thank you.
Hello, Mr. David. Thank you for coming here to see us here, and we love seeing you here as well. My question is, on the movie They Live, what was it like having that extended fight scene with Roddy Piper there?
Dude. Some of the most fun I've ever had in my life. It was, I'm a certified stage fighter. And, but it was the first time I got to have that kind of fight in the movies. I've done that on stage many times. But in the movies, I've not done that much. And there's a great similarity, but there are many, many, many differences having to do with camera angles and all that kind of stuff. But Rodney, he taught me how to sell it, taking a punch. He taught me how to sell it, giving a punch. And taught me a couple of moves that if you jump me, you'll find out about. So it was great fun, some of the best fun I've ever had in my career.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Hi, Mr. David. I hope you're having a wonderful day. My name is Jenna, and I wanted to ask about, again, going back to stunts and practical effects in The Thing. I was wondering what it was like working with a flamethrower in your scenes and what those stunts were.
Well, I'm gonna tell you something. Everybody thinks, oh, it's so exciting. I wish it was me. Oh man, you get to do that. And of course, I was excited to get to do that. But once you have in your hand a weapon, a gun that has a flame on its tip, and gas that shoots out with the very touch of the trigger, and the huge responsibility therein, because if you touch it and you're not focused on where you're aiming at, anything around you will catch fire. Now, in Vietnam, they used a chemical solution called napalm. And with the difference between what I had and what they had, I just had a gasoline solution. So, it would be far easier to put out. With a napalm solution, there's a chemical in it that makes it stick to you. So it doesn't matter how much you try to rub it off, it ain't going nowhere. But again, to answer your question, it was exciting. But it'll put a little color in your shorts. Because one mistake could burn the building down. And you don't want to be that guy.
Thank you so much.
Ash?
Hi, I'm Keith David. My name is Tommy, and I was just wondering what it was like to record the song "Friends on the Other Side" from Princess Leia.
Again, I have been blessed and highly favored. God, I love that song. In fact, I just started singing it in my club act, in my personal club act. I know I wanted that job. Once I saw the music, I know I wanted that job. But before I saw the music, all I knew was that the character sang. I don't know what he sang. I wasn't given the song until after the audition. And everybody in Hollywood wanted to do it. You know, everybody wanted to do that. I knew two things. One, that there's a wonderful actor, his name was Jeffrey Holder. You're all probably too young to remember the Cola Nut Man. It was a commercial for 7-Up, and Jeffrey Holder was the Cola Nut Man. You can look this up on YouTube, and he would hold up a lemon and a lime, and he would hold up a cola. These are cola nuts. They're used to make soft drinks. These are uncola nuts. They are used to make the soft drink summer. You know, so just trying to get that out of a cola nut. Anyway, I tried to do my best Jeffrey Holder because I know had he been a younger man, he would have probably gotten the job. So I had him in mind because Jeffrey was from Trinidad, so he had a Trinidadian accent. Although Facilier was from New Orleans. I just wanted to have a flavor that was not just straight up Southern, American. So I added a little bit of that into the dialogue. Not over the top, but just a little bit. And the other thing was, one of the things that made me know I wanted to be an actor was when I saw a movie called Hans Christian Andersen. I don't know if anybody knows that movie, with Danny Kaye. So, at the audition, I made sure I brought my friend who plays a wonderful piano, and I sang, there once was an ugly duckling with hairs all curly and brown, and the other birds in so many words said, get out of town. Said, get out, get out, get out of town. And he walked with a quack and a waddle down his back, and a very unhappy song. And I got it.
It's kind of life lessons, it's had anecdotes, it's had stories, and now a song. I'm very happy to be here. Question over here, and then the last question is going to be the gentleman that hat there, but everyone that's in line that didn't get to do a question, this man will be downstairs this weekend. By all means, check it out. And as an apology from me, we're going to take a big group shot. You guys can get right here in the front. So anyone that's behind those two guys, welcome right here. But you and then you, sir, that's going to be it.
Good morning, Mr. David. It is an honor. Now, obviously, you've had so many iconic lines over the years from Megacon Project. Something about Mary, Tales from the Hood too, more recently went viral. What's like the ones that people most quote back to you? And is there one that you just like people to stop shouting at you?
That would take all day. I've been really blessed. One of my favorite lines in the whole world is oh, look at here. Looks like somebody threw away a perfectly good white boy. But one of the lines most quoted to me is, how did you get the beat above Frank? And everybody that says it to me always says it like you're the only one who's ever said that. But it's I'm glad to be a source of something that made you laugh. There's just another moment in my life. I'm an old-fashioned guy, and I like corny. And there was an old song from the 20s and 30s, and it says, If my song can make you happy, if my song can start you crying, I'm happy, I'm happy. Let me sing a sad refrain of love in vain. And if my song can make you homesick, I'm happy. So, you know, I like that kind of stuff.
Our well-dressed last question right here.
Hi, Keith David. My name is Michael. So I first knew you through Community, and then I found you in everything else I'd ever watched. So my question, you did narration on one of the episodes before coming in as a full-time cast member.
Yes, about the wars.
Yeah. What was it like doing that versus being a full cast member? And then is there any chance that we'll see you back for the Community movie?
Of course there's a chance, but you know, that's an invitation. It's not, I can't do that just because I don't want to. And you know, I've done a lot of narration, a lot of Ken Burns narrations, and the direction that I got on that episode was, I want you to do this like it was a Ken Burns documentary. So I was just, you know, narrating what you saw, sort of, you know, in an objective way, as much as possible. So that was the difference.
Thank you. Great comment.
All right, guys, if you're in line, feel free to come up right here and take a big group shot. And anyone that's heading out of the room, take out that right door. VIPs, Nate here, welcome to stay. But I want to get a big